I was listening to Jason about what he's saying. I do think soft skills are hard to learn. And that's like, so how, what's the best method? Because you are going to wind up putting yourself out of your comfort zone, whatever that is. So, if it's being a bit more, say you're introverted, but so you find it a bit uncomfortable to be in a meeting and to build consensus. Building consensus is a soft skill. Typically, you don't know what you don't know. You don't know
Right.
what you're bad. So whether it's asking your colleagues, asking your manager, taking tests, doing whatever it is to expose to you first and foremost, what are the areas you need to work on? And then depending on what that area is, I think there are different things that you can do. And that's kind of a longer conversation. This is the kind of conversations I have with my direct reports, because I do believe this is part of personal development. And so I try to give that feedback to people who work for me directly so that they can say, hey, this is something that might be holding me back. And if I can work on this over the next year or 2 years, it's not something that usually happens in weeks or months. It's usually months or years, that they can make that adjustment and progress forward. So anyway, that's.
And Mike, I'd like to just piggyback quickly on Eric's comments and his answer to your question about what your viewers can do if they want to be better managers and improve their soft skills. And I think there are three areas, right? So number one that I talk about with people is effective communication. So being able to get out of your comfort zone of being an individual contributor and articulate very clearly, here's our plan, here's our strategy, here's the timeline, here's the resources we're going to use, effectively over communicate what it is we're doing, why we are doing it, and what your particular role is in this process. So that's number one. Number two, after you get past the communication, is to think about feedback. And Eric just mentioned this, constant feedback. You have to, as a manager, be able to give feedback about how well are the sub-teams in your group doing against our objectives? How are our individuals specifically doing? Over and over and over. And we talk about millennials, the number one thing the millennials want is feedback. You can't send them off and say, do this work and see me in 6 months, right? You have to give them feedback on a regular basis, good and bad, constructive and critical, about how they're doing, what they can do to improve, what recommendations you have about alternative resources they might use and other strategies, et cetera. So constant feedback is the second. This is labor intensive, but this is what management is. And then the third piece is being able to be agile on the field. And what that means is you have a plan, you've communicated it, now you're giving feedback constantly, letting people know how they're doing, but things change, right? So COVID happens, or another player comes into the market that's a competitor, or something has been disruptive in some way. You as a leader have to be able to make a change and redirect course and then go back and do the cycle all over again. Now there's a new strategy or an alternative strategy, and here's our new plan, here's our new timeline. Now I'm going to give you feedback against this and continue to develop you in that constant feedback loop. So those are the three things that as you move from being an individual contributor to wanting to have supreme manager effectiveness and the soft skills that make you a good leader and a good manager, overly communicate, and then constantly give feedback, and then remain agile.
Thank you so much for checking out this clip from the Data Talk podcast. To watch the full episode, you can either go to the Experian blog. The URL is experian.com/datatalk, or you can click on the link, which is found in the description of this video.